Lakaya. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sva Padantikam Bandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha Namaom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namah He Krishna Karuna Svindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Abdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvanto Ditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita Paramananda Pathaya Prema Varshyakshara Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume Madeka Bandho Mat Sangin Madguro Man Mahadhana Man Nistaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namostute Asadhu Sadhu Tadain Atini Chochataraka Hanamuncha Kadachinmam Premna Rathakantha Yospura Srimad Bhagavat Mahapuranam Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So apologies for the delay. I had conveyed to Prabhu one of the, our Suval Sakha Prabhu, but I think he only didn't come. Right. So I had just conveyed him to convey everyone that I'll be late by 10 or 15 minutes. That way. Okay, so fine. So we can start now. So yesterday we began with second chapter, which is the Lord in the heart. And we have seen till verse 7. So which is describing the criticism of karma phala. So can anyone tell how is this topic popping up from the last chapter? How is this topic coming up? Suddenly criticism of karma phala. Yes.
Initially in the first sloka, Sukadeva Goswami started with example of Brahmaji. In the last chapter, Sukadeva Goswami spoke about Vairaj Dharana. So then he is giving example of how Brahmaji did Vairaj Dharana, and because of which he got the power to recreate the entire cosmos.
Exactly.
So then using that context, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Sukadeva Goswami is now condemning from 2nd to 7th verse that how one should not be deviated. Sukadeva Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj that don't be deviated.
How is that deviation? Brahmaji is worshipping Vairaj is a deviation? What exactly is the deviation?
The fruits, Sukadeva Goswami is saying that Brahmaji did Vairaj Dharana and he's getting this power to recreate.
Yeah.
So he's warning Parikshit Maharaj that once you do Vairaj Dharana, then what will happen? There will be a lot of mystic powers that will come in.
Exactly.
So don't be deviated. You should go to the next level. That is Paramatma Dharana.
Yes, perfect. Yes.
So that's why he's condemning now.
Okay, perfect. That is good. Yeah. So that is it. Upasana phala. The Lakshan Dharana is spoken and that Dharana's Upasana phala is spoken. So that Upasana phala, one should not be attached. And so taking that context, then what he does is he criticizes all kinds of attachment to the fruits of action, which is the path of Sakam Karma. That's the path. So that's why he condemns Sakam Karma. Yes. Vishwanath Chakravarti gives one more perspective why this topic is coming up. Somebody remembers that? Why is this topic coming up? Yes, Prabhu.
what is the duty of a person who is about to die,
Yeah.
then some of the people in audience, some of the sages, they were thinking that one should do karma kand or one should do yajna. So just to remove that mentality from the sages, he condemns all this karma phala, especially karma kand.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay. Yeah, that is the another reason. Yes. So in this way, he speaks in this section about vairagya, which is needed on the path of bhakti or also on the path of jnana or yoga. The vairagya aspect is glorified over there, and we saw that amazing with a great feeling. Srila Shukdev Goswami speaks about all these ideas, right? So yesterday we went through these series of verses. So today we will continue, and the topic will move faster, because today we will see Paramatma Dharana's few verses, which will describe the Paramatma Dharana, which is a popular topic. And then after that, there is Sadhyo Mukti and Krama Mukti. These aspects have been spoken. So based on what Sridhar Swami, Vishwanath Chakravarti and Jiva Goswami say, based on that, some knowledge of these processes we get. But all the details of these processes and all, they are not spoken, you know. So whatever is spoken by acharyas, that much we can speak. It's like, it's not bhakti process where we have all the details available in our scriptures, especially in Sandarbhas and other places. So many of the verses need a thorough understanding of path of Ashtanga Yoga and path of many different things like Shat Chakra Yoga and all that. So some levels of details are given here. So we should know that the topic is not a thorough analysis of these paths. They are being spoken in passing to show the superiority of bhakti. Bhakti utkarsh, bhakti ka utkarsh. So that is how some of the details are there, some of the details are not there. So based on that, we can try to see whatever is spoken over here. So now from text 8 onwards, this is Paramatma Dharana. Vairaj Dharana is spoken in the last verse. Vairaj Dharana's Upasana Phala, one should not be attached to that, is also spoken. Now he will come to the main topic that he wanted to speak, which is Paramatma Dharana. Paramatma Dharana means, what is that form of Paramatma? How does the yogi meditate on it? These ideas. Okay. So this is spoken now from text 8 to screen sharing. Text 8 to verse number 14, 13, like that. So this is Paramatma Dharana. Text 8. I'll just share the screen. Can't share. Kechit swadehantarardhayavakashe pradeshamatram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanjarathanga shankha gadadharam dharanaya smaranti. Yes. Translation.
Others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body, in the region of the heart, and measuring only 8 inches, with 4 hands carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club, respectively.
So now he will speak about these people, these yogis who do Paramatma Dharana. So Kechit, but some others, he is saying, some others, what did they do? Dharanaya smaranti. By dharana, they remember, they meditate on whom? They meditate on one Lord who is Chaturbhujam, who is Kanja Rathanga Shankha Gadadharam. Who is this? This is Paramatma. This is Vyashti Antaryami. Vyashti Antaryami. The form which is there as Paramatma in our heart. This is not Samashti Antaryami. This is Vyashti Antaryami. Because Samashti Antaryami is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Okay, so Kechid, but some yogis who are ashuddha chitta yogi, nahi, shuddha chitta yogi. Those who are yogis with a pure heart, advanced yogis, you can say. They are the ones who remember, who are meditate by dharana on this form, which is holding Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, which is having 4 hands. And it is residing in the heart of that particular yogi, Swadehantara Hridayavakashe, in his body, in his heart, not the physical heart, but Antakaran. In the Antakaran, this Lord is residing. You know that there are airs in the body, and there is equilibrium point of the air. So on that equilibrium point, the soul is floating, and just next to soul, the super soul is also there. So that is Swadehantara Hridayavakashe, like that. Pradesha Matram, and he is having a dimension which is what? Pradesha Matram, Angushta Tarjani Matram. This is Pradesh. That, this much. Pradesha Matram Purusham Vasantam. Vasantam means he resides over there. He is residing in the heart of the yogi. Sometimes he is also known as Angushta Matram, of thumb size. Sometimes he is said to be Pradesha Matram, because these are indicative. This is not like somebody has gone and measured Paramatma's size. 6 inches, Pradesh Matram, like that. No, these are indicational. When the yogi meditates, if he meditates, does he meditate him as a huge form, or does he meditate as a form with some dimension? So to indicate that, these things are spoken. Pradesha Matram. So soul size, super soul size, these are all suchak. Okay, Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses that term, like that. These are indicational. So they do have dimension, that's the point. But anyhow, it is spiritual subject matter. So what length, breadth, height you can apply? It will not make any sense. Length, breadth, height, that way. But to give us some understanding about the dimensions, so these terms are used. Okay. So these are the people who are those special yogis, Kechit, those whose hearts are not tormented by the desires of Rajas and Tamas to enjoy the objects of this world. So they meditate on this particular personality. So Srila Jiva Goswami says that these people, especially those who are Virat Roop meditators, if they are purified by their meditation, then they come to this level, which is the dharana, like that. But if they are not purified like that, so then they have to practice that process again and again and again. See, Virat Roop meditation is only up to dharana. Once that dharana is perfected, then he has to switch his dharana to which? To Paramatma meditation. There is no further dhyan and what is that? Samadhi in that Virat Roop. No, you have to switch from dharana to this side then, to Paramatma dharana. And then on Paramatma you do dhyan and samadhi, and then you will be able to achieve mukti. So whether it is krama mukti or sadhya mukti, both of them have to do dharana on Paramatma. This is, it will come. I will explain this in the further text. So point is here, these people, these are very special yogis, devotional yogis, who want to meditate on directly. They are qualified to meditate on Paramatma because they have a pure heart. They are not so much, their mind is not so much wavering due to desires to enjoy the objects of this world, or because of raga, dvesha and all that. So that is the point. Okay. So that is the meaning of Kechit, these very special people, like that. Okay. Fine. So these devotees, meaning these yogis, although they are meditating on Paramatma, but still the goal is what? The goal is Sayujya only. Yeah, very clear. The goal is Sayujya, even for them. These are not Bhakti Mishra, Yoga Mishra Bhaktas. These are not Yoga Mishra Bhaktas. These are Bhakti Mishra yogis. Okay. So Sayujya is the goal. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti in the context of this verse explains there are 4 kinds of yogis, he says. When you say talk the path of yoga, there are 4 kinds of yogis. First, he says, are the yogis who undergo yama, niyama, asana, pranayam and all this, but they don't have object of meditation as the Supreme Lord. They don't accept that object of meditation as Supreme Lord. So they may accept some other object, some other dharana, or they may just meditate on their pranas and mana, mind, or like that. There is prana manodharana also. You meditate on your pranas. So they don't have any transcendental object for meditation. These are the first yogis, and he says these are not approved by Bhagavat. Bhagavat asammata. Bhagavat does not accept such yogis. This is a path which will not lead them to any perfection. So these are the first types of yogis. Then second, he says, second are the ones who take to Ashtanga Yoga, but they are too much bewildered or disturbed by Rajas and Tamas. So they take to Virat Roop meditation. And after Virat Roop meditation, then they meditate, after they are purified, they meditate on Samashti Antaryami. Okay, who is Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Samashti Antaryami, they meditate on that form of the Lord. So this is what Bhagavatam's 3rd canto 28th chapter describes. If you see the meditation over there, the meditation is of Garbhodakshai Vishnu who is lying down. There, the meditation is not on standing Paramatma, but on lying down Paramatma. So that is Garbhodakshai Vishnu. So then third, he says, is that those who undergo Virat Roop meditation, and then they meditate on Vyashti Antaryami, which is Vyashti Paramatma, which is the current context which is being spoken. These are the ones. And fourth one, he says, is that where they don't undergo any Virat Roop meditation, they directly go to the Antaryami meditation, Paramatma meditation. They are pure yogis, so who go directly. So now, what is the difference between second and third? There is not much difference. Only what is their object of meditation, that is what is being different. Both are having transcendental object of meditation only. Whether Samashti Antaryami or Vyashti Antaryami, both are transcendental objects of meditation. So as such, there is no difference, but he is telling difference by the process of the sadhan which they are having. Kya hai bhai, tumhari dharna kya hai? So dharna is Vyashti Antaryami or dharna is Samashti Antaryami. Based on that, these people will be, they are being differentiated. That is the only thing. Otherwise, no difference. Both have the transcendental objects. And then fourth one is where they don't undergo any Virat Roop meditation. So this is how Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains 4 types of yogis. So that is why what goes on popularly in the name of yoga is actually not approved by Bhagavatam. You meditate on candle or monkey or, some red color or, whatever, your favorite object, your favorite woman, they say outside. This is what they speak actually in yoga. So you can imagine what will be happening there with sense, mind and senses like that. So anything. Your favorite deity, they will say. And then dharna should be such a way that deity explodes. That is perfection of their dharna. That is their idea, like that. So very bogus kind of meditation. So Bhagavat asammat. Bhagavat doesn't approve any of them. He says that, Vishwanath Chakravarti. In purport, Prabhupada says, the form of the Lord described in this verse with distribution of different symbols, beginning from lower right up and down to the lower left hand with lotus, wheel of a chariot, conch shell and club respectively. Sometimes Rathanga is also said instead of Sudarshan. That is there. Sudarshan is sort of equated with Rathanga. There is even etymological meaning which can correspond to Rathanga as Sudarshan. That's there. It's explained. So it is basically referring to Sudarshan Chakra. So here, this particular form which he is speaking is Janardana, he is saying, because this is Vyashti Antaryami. Om Janardanaya Namah. Right. So this is Janardana. Form is known as Janardana. The specific, Prabhupada is describing the specific, the way he holds, like that, respectively, beginning from lower right hand up and down to the lower left hand. So begin with lotus, then chakra, then gada, and then shankha, and then gada. So that is Janardana. This way. So Prabhupada says there are different forms which are there in spiritual world based on different positions of Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, right? You know, Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. Then you have different positions if you wrote it. 4. So what it will be? 4 factorial, right? Combinations. Yeah. So that's what, 4 factorial. So 24 combinations. So Prabhupada is describing that this way. Prabhupada says, the Lord exists as Purusha or the male enjoyer, although there is no comparing him to any male form in the material world. But all such forms are Advaita, non-different from one another. And each of them is eternally young. The young Lord with 4 hands is described, nicely decorated as described below. So Purusha, he's a male form and he's most beautiful. Purusha. He's 16 years old. And Lord Vishnu also 15 years old or 16 years old. Kaishor Vayas, he is also Kishor Vayas. So everybody in Vaikuntha is Kishor Vayas, even the associates of Lord. So like that. Text 9. Prasanna Vaktram Nalinayate Kshanam Kadamba Kinjal Kapishanga Vasasam Lasan Maharatna Hiranmayangadam Spuran Maharatna Kirita Kundalam. Yes. Read.
His mouth expresses his happiness. His eyes spread like the petals of the lotus, and his garments, yellowish like the saffron of a kadamba flower, are bedecked with valuable jewels. His ornaments are all made of gold, set with jewels, and he wears a glowing headdress and earrings.
Prasanna Vaktram Nalina Yatekshanam. He has a very, very pleasing face. Mouth expresses great happiness. And he has eyes which are spread like petals of a lotus. Nalina Yata. Very beautiful eyes. Large petal-like eyes, which extend up to ears. Kadamba Kinjal Kapishanga Vasasam. And he has a very beautiful, dhoti, robes. His Pitambar is Kadamba Kinjal Kapishanga Vasasam. So it is like you have seen the Kadamba flower. So the Kadamba flower has in it those saffron, yellow stems are there within the flower, right? So that is known as Kadamba Kinjal Kapishanga Vasasam. Kadamba Kinjal, that flower has, what do you call it? Inside, you understand, the stems that come out from inside the flower. So Kadamba Kinjal Kapishanga Vas. Lasan Maharatna Hiranmayangadam. And he wears very beautiful, valuable ornaments like Angada. Very beautiful ornaments which are having very valuable jewels, Lasan Maharatna. And these are golden ornaments. He wears Keyura, he wears Angada, he wears the Kankana, armlets, bracelets, like that. Very beautiful ornaments. Spuran Maharatna Kirita Kundalam. And he also has a very beautiful kirit on his head with very beautiful bedecked, earrings, like that. So his beauty is being described like that. Okay, further. Unnidrarit Pankaja Karnikalaye Yogeshvara Sthapita Pada Pallapam Shri Lakshanam Kaustubaratna Kandharam Amlana Lakshmyavanamala Yachitam.
His lotus feet are placed over the whools of lotus-like hearts of great mystics. On his chest is the Kaustuva jewel engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers.
Yes. So, Unnidra Rit Pankaja Karnikalaye Yogeshwara Sthapita Pada Pallavam. He is standing Asthapita Pada Pallavam. He is standing on the lotus-like whirl of lotus-like heart of a yogi who is Unnidra, who has woken up from his sleep, meaning one who has a heart which is blooming with devotion. Unnidra. So that devotee's heart is compared to a lotus. And on the whirl of that lotus, Lord is standing. His 2 feet are established over there. Yogeshwara Sthapita Pada Pallavam. So, Sri Lakshanam, he has on his beautiful chest, he has Srivatsa, Sri Lakshmanam or Sri Lakshanam, it can, both the words are there. So he has a very beautiful Srivatsa mark on his right part of the chest. So which is a line of golden hair, or it is said it is line of white hair. And Mother Lakshmi's residence is over there. Sri Lakshmanam, Sri Vatsa, one who is beloved of Lakshmi, like that. Sometimes this is also described on Vamastana, meaning the left part of the bosom of Lord. It's also Dakshina, sometimes also left, like that. So both the opinions are there. If it in South India, you will see they will always depict on the right side. Right side, Srivatsa is there. So that is the considered the abode of Lakshmi. That is where Lakshmi Devi resides, on Lord's chest. That's why when Vamana came, you remember that, he was wearing the Krishna jinam, black deer skin, and then right part of his bosom was exposed. So that's why he thought, if Lakshmi is residing on my right part, and then if Lakshmi glances on Bali, then how can I take anything away from him? So I should change the position of my ajina, meaning of my deer skin. So he lifted his deer skin and put like this, so that Srivatsa is covered that way. But then when he did like that, because of this so much of adjustment, it is said that Vedanteshikan explains this in his Dehali Stuti. So he says that, so Lakshmi out of curiosity took her beautiful face out and glanced on Bali. And that's how, it was decided that now nothing will be taken away from Bali. Lord won't be able to. So although Lord took away everything, but then he was given such an opulence, Sutala Loka, and that too, Lord himself as doorkeeper. So that is because of Mother Lakshmi's mercy. So this is one perspective that he gives on that. So that is Sri Lakshanam or Lakshmanam. Kaustubha Ratna Kandharam. And there is also beautiful Kaustubha, which is there on the torso of the Lord, lying in the neck of the Lord. Kaustubha. So these two are considered the special signs of the Lord, isn't it? Everybody else in the Vaikuntha also has 4 hands, exactly looks like Lord, 16-year-old only, exactly matches with Lord in everything, except for these 2. One is Srivatsa, which is the abode of Lakshmi on Lord's chest, and second is Kaustubha. These 2 are only specifically in Lord Vishnu, like that. For others also, they wear Vanamala, they wear different kinds of Ratnahar and everything that Lord wears, especially. But these 2 are specifically distinguishing signs of Lord Vishnu. By that one can understand this is Lord Vishnu. Amblana Lakshmya Vanamala Yachitam. And also his beautiful body is decorated with Vanamala. So Vanamala, which the flowers of which would never ever wither. Amlana Lakshmya. It is so beautiful, that garland, Vanamala, that it will never wither away in its beauty. The flowers remain always fresh. Vanamala is a specific garland which extends down to the feet. And then Vaijayanti is what? Which extends down to the, you know these things? I don't know. It's there in Bhakti Sami Sindhu. Lord wears 3 kinds of garlands. So one is known as Vaijayanti Mala. One is Ratnamala. Vaijayanti Mala, Ratnamala, and third one is Vanamala. Okay. So Vaijayanti Mala extends up to knees. Vanamala extends up to feet. So Vaijayanti has 5 fixed flowers. It will be made by that only, Vaijayanti Mala. While Vanamala is made up of mix. You know, it can have leaves, it can have many different flowers also, like that. And then the Ratnamala is there, one very specific garland which he wears of jewels, like that. So that is also on the Lord. So these 3 malas which he wears. So that is what is spoken here. Prabhupada says in purport that these are not material ingredients, that Lord's ornaments, flowers and all. And these are all transcendental. This is Chit Shakti actually. And this is not Achit Shakti. ये सोना अचित सोना नहीं है. ये कौन सा सोना है? चित सोना है. This is transcendental gold, transcendental, you know, all these flowers. So the replica of that is there in the material world in terms of what we see, like that. So, but these are all transcendental ingredients. Everything about the Supreme Lord is made up of Chit Shakti, which his paraphernalia and everything. Only in the on the deity form of the Lord, we may take the material things and offer it to the Lord. But because they are being used in the service, they are also considered spiritual. But that is spiritual by utility, not by constitution. By utility, it is considered spiritual. But this is spiritual by upadan. Straight away, by the ingredient itself, it is spiritual. It is not gold of this world. It is chit gold, like that. And chit flowers, whatever, flowers, leaves, everything, this way. Okay, text 11. Vibhushitam mekhalayanguliyakay mahadhanair nupuraka kankanadibhi snigdhamala kunchitanila kuntalay virochamana nanahasapeshalam.
He is well decorated with an ornamental wreath about his waist and rings studded with valuable jewels on his fingers. His leglets, his bangles, his oiled hair curling with a bluish tint, and his beautiful smiling face are all very pleasing.
Yeah. So he is very beautifully decorated. Rather Bhushana Bhushanangam. All these ornaments are decorated by him because he wears, so they have some beauty. Vibhushitam Mekhalaya. So he has very beautiful Mekhala on his waist. This is a belt which is having very beautiful bells on it. Mekhala. Anguli Yakai. And he also has rings in his fingers. Mahadhanair Nupura Kankanadibhi. Also, he wears very beautiful anklets, Nupura Kankana, and also armlets. Snigdha Amala Kunchita Nila Kuntale. His hairs are most beautiful. They are curly hair which have bluish tinge and which are very silky, which are very smooth, slick, black hair, which are also having a bluish tinge. So by this, you know, beautiful hairs and his karna kundala and all that, his face looks very, very beautiful. Virochamana nanahasa peshalam. His face is extremely beautified because of all these ornaments, like that. So Prabhupada in purport, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is most beautiful person amongst all others. And Srila Shukadeva Goswami describes every part of his transcendent beauty, one after another, in order to teach the impersonalist that the personality of Godhead is not an imagination by the devotee for facility of worship, but is the Supreme Person in fact and figure. Prabhupada is saying, why is Shukadeva Goswami describing Lord? To teach impersonalist, to give up his nonsense idea, right? That the Lord does not have a form. Mayavadi, basically impersonalist here will not mean Brahmavadi, because he knows Lord has a beautiful form. So Prabhupada's impersonalist means Mayavadi. Understand? Like that. So yes, actually, these people have done a lot of havoc by Mayavadis by considering Lord as Maya. So one is then completely bereft of the beautiful process of bhakti. So that's why Prabhupada always criticized these people out of compassion. Text 12. Adina lila hasite kshanollasat bhubranga samsuchita bhuryanugraham iksheta chinta amayamena mishwaram yavan manodharana yavatishthate.
The Lord's magnanimous pastimes and the glowing glancing of his smiling face are all indications of his extensive benediction. One must therefore concentrate on this transcendental form of the Lord, as long as the mind can be fixed on him by meditation.
So Lord's face is considered full of benediction, bhuri anugraham, like that. So that face is described very nicely. It has a smile on that. And there are very beautiful magnanimous pastimes of the Lord. So because of such beautiful pastime, so he has always a very smiling face and he is glancing with a great delight on all his devotees. In fact, it is said that he has such beautiful pastimes going on. So when Lord is there, all his associates are glorifying him. And because they are glorifying him, so he is reciprocating with, his bhubranga. By his eyebrows, he's saying, oh, okay, like that. Somebody is glorifying. Then he is reciprocating with them by the movement of his eyebrows. So ऐसे नहीं कि भाई परमात्मा अकेला बैठा है उसको कुछ करने को है नहीं. Paramatma, this is Paramatma being described, isn't it? So when that Paramatma is there in Jiva's heart, but by his transcendental potency, all his associates are glorifying him. Shri is glorifying him, and his other, very special associates, 16 associates, they are glorifying him, and like that. And when he hears that glorification, like somebody is speaking something about you, then on the face, some bhav will come, no? So similarly on Krishna, on Lord Vishnu's face, those bhavas come as Paramatma, hearing the glorifications of the devotees. So they must be glorifying some aspect of his magnanimous pastime. And then he hears and he's, wow, like that. So his face and his bhubranga keeps on changing because of his reciprocation with those devotees who are glorifying him. Like that commentary explains. So iksheta chinta mayamena meshwaram. So one should be meditating on this form actually. This form which is chintamaya, meaning this form which is manifested in the heart by the contemplation of the yogi. Initially, yogi has the contemplation which is mechanical, by which he tries to meditate on that form. But by the focus of his dharana, then the form manifests. That's why it is said iksheta. One should perceive this form. Chintamayam means chintaya avirbhavantam. Jo chinta se avirbhut hota hai form. Like that. Chinta here means chintanam. Like that. So one should, till that time, one should do this dharana by it in this way, that his mana is able to manifest that form of the Supreme Lord, which is the form of Paramatma, by his meditation, by his contemplation, like that. Yavan mano dharanaya atishthate. So this verse is not speaking about just mechanical meditation on Supreme Lord. It is speaking about further stage of that, where dharana manifests the form. Dharana is manifesting that form of Paramatma within his heart. He is able to now perceive it like that. So that is what is spoken over here. Like that. So now Prabhupada in this purport has written a very long purport on the aspect of Paramatma Dharana and why it is required for Anarth Nivrutti. So this is all based on actually next verse. The purport of Prabhupada is based on next verse. What is spoken in the next verse, he begins that discussion here itself, like that. So we'll see that, but we'll see first the next verse. Ekayekashongani dhiyanubhavayet padadi yavadhasitam gadabhrata jitam jitam sthanam apohya dharayet param param shuddhyati dhir yatha yatha. Yes.
The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to his smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon the lotus feet and then the calves, then the thighs, and in this way higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed upon the different parts of the limbs, one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified.
So dharana was spoken in the last verse. This verse is speaking about dhyanam. You understand what is the difference between dharana and dhyana? Remember? Yeah? Yeah, limb by limb is dhyana. Yes. And bringing the mind from the other objects to the general, not general, but the total form of the Lord is known as dharana. But now limb by limb becomes dhyanam. So once the dharana is established of the yogi, it is said, Ekai kasho angani. He should meditate on one limb of the Lord. Padadi yavad hasitam. So right from beginning from his lotus feet to his smile, hasitam. Okay. So like that, one should meditate on one limb. So when one is supposed to take one limb and then leave it to go to the another limb. So he said, jitam jitam sthanam apohya dharayet. When one becomes completely focused on one particular limb of the Lord without any distraction, he is able to focus on that particular limb. Then apohya, then one should leave that limb and move to the next limb, like that. Param param shuddhyati dhir yatha yatha. And when this is happening, when he is focusing on one limb after another, his consciousness is also getting more and more purified, like that. So you understand, even at this stage of dharana, it is not that his anartha nivrutti is over. There are certain anarthas which are going to be there. So only post samadhi, then you talk about the complete purification aspect, like that. Even after that, there will be sometimes a desire to see these planets. That is what is krama mukti. So point is what, when you talk about this contamination, no, just as in bhakti also anartha nivrutti is over only at the stage of prema. So similarly here also, as the yogi is able to manifest dharana and further he is doing dhyanam, but still it is said that he becomes more and more purified. So his consciousness becomes, it gets rid of that contamination at finer and finer level. Param param shuddhyati dhir yatha yatha. Jaise jaise unki chetna shuddha hoti jati hai, like that he should move on to the next limb. It is said, jitam jitam sthanam apohya dharayat. So taking commentary of this, Prabhupada has written his purport actually of the prior verse, like that. So let us see this purport now. Prabhupada says, it is suggested herein that meditative devotee should try to concentrate on described form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed upon him. So this is dharana aspect. So Prabhupada says, for this, actually the deities, meditating on the deities is a even easier option. For a yogi to be able to meditate on Lord's form within his heart, and then such a dharana that it manifests the presence of the Lord is not so easy. But easier path is that one meditates on the deities, Prabhupada is saying. And that's why acharyas have installed so many archa vigrahas. He says that. So he speaks how temple worship is not idol worship and all that. So deities as dharana shray, That is what is that theme of that particular Prabhupada's paragraph. Further, see, he says, meditation on the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, the first processional step must show its effect by anartha nivrutti. So he says that when, so this is referring to that yatha yatha dhi, next verse's last line of that verse. So it is based on Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's comment, where Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says this, you see, yatha yatha dhishcha shuddhyati vishay lampatyam tyajati tatha tatha dharayet iti chutta shuddhi taratamyena iva dhyana taratamyam uktam. Prabhupada is directly quoting from Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary. This line is there from Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary directly. So Prabhupada is quoting that and explaining. So here Vishwanath Chakravarti says, yatha yatha dhishcha shuddhyati vishay lampatyam tyajati. So when he can move to the next limb, it is said in dhyanam, when he abandons the attachment for sense objects, vishay lampatyam tyajati. So meaning that although he is at the stage of dharana, he has some attachment for vishayas and all that. So he is able to see that he is becoming purified more and more and more. Then he moves on to the next limb, like that. Vishay lampatyam, vishay lampatta ko tyagta hai. Chitta shuddhi taratamya naiva dhyana taratamya. How, if he has a certain aspect of contamination, that gets cleared up, then only he moves to the next limb, like that. So a very great detailed explanation of this is not there in any tika or like that. But the point is this, that there is chitta shuddhi taratamya, meaning that as and when he becomes purer, he moves to the next limb to do dhyanam on the Supreme Lord. So taking this particular idea, Prabhupada has written the whole purport, where he says that one should understand that anartha nivrutti should be seen when one is meditating on lotus feet of the Lord, or when one is serving the Supreme Lord. Then the anartha nivrutti should be visible, that the person's anarthas are getting away and they are getting cleared. Otherwise, what is the proof of the purification? So what is the grossest type of anartha? Prabhupada says that is sex desire. So as we progress in bhakti, or as the yogi progresses in his yoga, so his heart should be becoming free from these anarthas. So Prabhupada also quotes that tushti, pushti, kshudha paya. Prabhupada quotes that example. As a person feels his hunger satisfied, so similarly, that way. So here further, we have previously discussed that the transcendentalist is required to be self-sufficient and should not beg from rich blind persons to fulfill the bare necessities of life. Now here he says, especially Shukdev Goswami has suggested some alternatives for bare necessities of life, like Chirani Kim Pathina Santi and all that, namely the problem of eating, sleeping and shelter. But he has not suggested any alternative for sex satisfaction. Prabhupada, right? Right. So that Swasamartha, Anyatha Siddhi, you accomplish all these chirani, some torn clothes, some place for residence, some water to drink, some eating, but he has not given some alternative for sex life, Prabhupada says. That is to be avoided only completely. That is to be given up this way. So Prabhupada writes practically, one who has sex desire still with him should not at all try to accept the renounced order of life. So especially sannyas by renounced order of life. A brahmachari naturally, he is struggling with the sex desire, right? Otherwise, if the statement has to be applied to brahmachari, then then you are applying it to siddha, right? How is he a sadhaka? So it applies to sannyasi actually, like that. So Prabhupada comes still to a more practical level. If it is a standard for sannyas, then still it's a very high standard. No desire absolutely. So Prabhupada says, for one who has not attained to this stage, there is no question of a renounced order of life. That is the real standard. So by the gradual process of devotional service, under the guidance of a spiritual master and following principles of Bhagavatam, one must be at least to control the gross sex desire. See, Prabhupada is even giving more practical, that such a person should at least be able to control his gross sex desire. Sometimes mind may run towards the sense objects, but at least one, before one accepts the renounced order of life, which is sannyas, one should be able to at least able to control the gross aspect of that particular desire. And then once that is done, one will slowly also get rid of the mental aspect that way. But yes, the real standard of renounced order of life is one is free from the desire for sex life. So Prabhupada is putting that first and then explaining this thing that way. Now Prabhupada also connects this meditating on one limb to reading Bhagavatam, where he says that Bhagavatam, you should be reading Bhagavatam canto by canto. Because just as this yogi is having darshan of the Lord from feet to the face, similarly Bhagavatam is also compared Bhagavatam's cantos, isn't it? The first pado prathamo dvitiyo, what is that? Pado yadiyo prathamo dvitiyo, right? The first two cantos are considered the Lord's lotus feet, and further all the way up to 10th canto. So Prabhupada connects that way also very nicely. That's why one should read Bhagavatam canto by canto. If he cannot just jump on the 10th canto, Prabhupada says, especially one should be free from the sex desire. Otherwise, one is just trying to enter into Bhagavatam's exalted confidential subject matter without understanding what is the qualification. It's like fools rush in where angels fear to tread. It's like that, isn't it? So Prabhupada is saying that. So that is why. So this is the point of Prabhupada, that chitta shuddhi taratamyena. भाई जितना चित्त शुद्ध हो रहा है उसके हिसाब से ध्यान में अंग जो है ऊपर का अंग जो है वो लेता जाएगा वो. He will be gradually proceeding in his meditation depending on his chitta shuddhi. So this is the point. So same way we should apply this process also, Prabhupada says, in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, that we get more and more purified. Then we become qualified to understand the subject matter of 10th canto, like that. So that is Prabhupada's mood always. Prabhupada shares this particular insight. Okay, in the purport of this verse, Prabhupada says, according to Bhagavad school, the Lord's rasa dancing is the smiling face of the Lord. So he continues that theme from the prior verse of studying Bhagavatam step by step, just as yogi is meditating on the form step by step, limb by limb. So Prabhupada also says that. See, he says, since it is recommended in this verse that one should gradually progress from lotus feet up to smiling face, we shall not jump at once to understand Lord's pastimes in the rasa dance. It is better to practice concentrating our attention by offering flowers and tulsi leaves to the lotus feet of the Lord. Instead of prematurely entering into 10th canto pastimes, he says we should focus on offering flowers and tulsi leaves to the lotus feet of the Lord. It can also mean that, yes, by studying the rest of the cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, we should focus on that. If we are too much disturbed by the sensuous desires, Prabhupada would always say that one should not prematurely try to understand Krishna's Rasa Leela and all. One should focus on understanding Krishna's greatness, and then one will be able to appreciate his exalted pastimes like Rasa Leela this way. Okay. Prabhupada has some practical things here. Those who are too engrossed in sense gratification cannot be allowed to participate in Archana or to touch the transcendental form of the Radha, Krishna or Vishnu deities. For them, it is better to meditate upon gigantic Virat Roop of the Lord, as recommended in the next verse. Of course. So you understand, this doesn't mean that devotees start Virat Roop meditation. Those who have a problem with the sensuous desires. That's not our process at all. But the point is what Prabhupada is saying, that in order to do the archanam of Radha Krishna deities and all, one should be at least getting rid of very grossest kind of anarthas which are there in his heart, isn't it? Because even yoga doesn't allow direct Paramatma dharana like that. If one is very much disturbed by rajas and tamas this way. Of course, one may do other services which are there in Archana, because Archana itself is considered an antidote for getting rid of the sensuous desires. But one may not serve the lordships very directly. One may render other services within the Archana Marg also, like that. Because, yes, point is that the process of Archana itself is the means by which one can conquer all these lower desires that is there. But Prabhupada is warning us about actually the real standard, what should be the real standard of worshipping Radha Krishna, like that. We don't follow the process of universal form, meaning Virat Rup meditation, obviously, because that is path of yoga. That's not path of Shravanam Kirtanam. What is told in our process in bhakti is, if somebody is too much disturbed by rajas and tamas, so then such a person should take the process of Shravanam Kirtanam very intensely. He is such a person. Along with Shravanam Kirtanam, of course, Shravanam Kirtanam also means engaging in service. But that is our process. That is the main thing, like that. The one who engages in that process with intensity, one will be able to overcome slowly all these anarthas. That is the point. We don't recommend any Virat Rup meditation or like that in Bhakti Yoga. It is for yoga only, the path of Ashtanga Yoga. Text 14. Yavan na jayeta paravaresmin vishveshware drashtari bhakti yoga tavat sthaviyah purushasya rupam kriya vasane prayata smareta. Yes.
Unless the gross materialist develops a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both the transcendental and material worlds, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties.
Yeah. So, as far as yoga is concerned, if somebody is too much disturbed by, sensuous desires, then for him to do that dharana on Paramatma is not possible only. That's why he is recommended for Virat Rup meditation. Somebody can say, no, that why he is being told to do Virat Rup meditation. Anyway, he has to come to Paramatma meditation, so let him do. Like, we can also say that we have Shravanam Kirtanam, right? So if somebody is very sensuously agitated, we will say, still do Shravanam Kirtanam. So same way we can say there also. What is the problem? You understand what I'm saying? Yes. So how will you answer this? Yes, anyone? Yes, Prabhu.
So then you will not be able to do the process properly.
Yeah.
Because a purified heart is required by doing
For what?
For Paramatma dharana.
Yes. Why is a purified heart required?
Because it's because internally he is meditating on the Paramatma.
It is smaranam. Exactly. That's the point. See, Shravanam Kirtanam also, but Shravanam Kirtanam is very easy to practice even in the conditioned state. One can access its potency. But because the process there is smaranam, no, it is dhyanam. So it is not easy. If one is not purified enough, then he will not be able to do only that Paramatma dharana. It's already a very difficult process. So that's why such a person is recommended to do Virat Rup meditation and see the Lord in that manner as Virat Purusha, get rid of his attachments, his envy, his hatred, his his so many attachments in the world. And then one is able to progress to Paramatma meditation. So it is a very demanding process because the Anga is Smaranam, which is more difficult than Shravanam and Kirtanam. Shravanam and Kirtanam, they don't need to practice, they don't need Antakaran Shuddhi. But Smaranam is not possible without that. One will just not be able to meditate only. His mind is so much wavering that he cannot focus like that. But Shravanam Kirtanam, that process doesn't have that particular fault. So Even if somebody comes from any level, like Prabhupada, even hippies, Prabhupada engaged them in Shravanam and Kirtanam. That is the great benediction of bhakti process. It doesn't need these sort of pre-qualifiers for its process. You can engage directly in Shravanam, Kirtanam. And of course, practical service, those aspects come only. Within Shravanam, it will come. So then one is able to progress further. So that's why this verse is saying, Yavanna Jayat Paravaresmin. Till the point that Bhakti Yoga in Vishveshwara, in Paramatma, in that Drashta, not Drishya, but in that Drashta, Bhakti Yoga is not invoked. This Bhakti Yoga is, of course, Yoganga Bhuta Bhakti Yoga, meaning it's a Bhakti Yoga which is part of yoga process. It is not pure devotional service. Tavat sthaviyah purushasya rupam kriyavasane prayatah smaret. So till that time, the person should do a meditation on Virat Roop, like that. So that is the point. So Prabhupada is translating the sense of loving service in the sense of, again, Paramatma meditation. That is the sense in which he is translating this, like that. Because this verse is not talking about the bhakti process at all. There is no question of bhakti process here. What we are talking is here is the Paramatma meditation, which is Bhakti Mishra Yoga. So that's why Bhakti Yoga here actually means, Vishwanath Chakravarti says what? He says that this is Yoganga Bhuta. See, Bhakti Yoga, Yog Anga Bhuta Dhyana Lakshana. Meaning, ye jo bhakti hai, wo yog ka ang hai. This bhakti is limb of yoga, like that. That is the point. Yoga is the main path that he is following, and in that this bhakti is one of the anga. Isko bolte hai yoganga bhut. Just like jnananga bhut. Bhakti is sometimes the path of bhakti is considered limb of jnana process. So then it becomes jnananga bhuta. Here it is yoganga bhuta, dhyana lakshana. So that is what is this. So till the time this doesn't happen, Paramatma Dharana, he is not able to come to that level. Till that time, he should do what? He should do Virat Roop meditation and make his dharana as solid. Then one will be able to further proceed to Paramatma Dharana. So Prabhupada here, he's writing, the real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in his service. That is the natural position of living entities. But those who are impersonalist and are unable to render any loving service to the Lord have been advised to meditate upon his impersonal feature, the Virat Rupa or universal form. So Prabhupada is addressing that idea, like that. So Virat Rupa meditation is done, and then by that Bhakti Yoga comes, meaning that the person comes to Paramatma meditation. And if we have to take this Bhakti Yoga to mean pure devotional service, then as I said before also, then it has to be with association of devotees. If the Bhakti Mishra Yogi gets the association of devotees, then with that causation, you can say that he comes to pure devotional service. Then it is acceptable. The verse is like that way. Otherwise, naturally from Virat Roop meditation, he cannot progress to pure devotional service. That is not possible. It is only possible by the association of devotees, like that. So in that sense, then we can also see the verse from that angle and this way. So Prabhupada writes in this manner then that only when he meditates on Virat Roop, then he will be able to progress further. Okay. So this is Paramatma Dharana that is spoken. Is there anything that you wish to ask on this before we proceed? Yes, Prabhu.
In the purport, it was mentioned that impersonalists and voidists are suggested to meditate on Virat Roop because they are not sufficiently purified. Can they directly take to Shravan and at least Shravanam?
Oh, who cannot take to Shravanam Kirtanam?
Then
Anyone can take.
Why it is mentioned in particular to Virat Roop?
In the path of yoga. In the path of yoga, they are recommended. Like that. Yes. Anyone? Yeah, I remember the verse.
Yeah,
3 points.
Vibhu.
Yeah.
Tat Vibhu. So whatever the form a devotee meditates.
Yeah.
So now, like Prabhupada told that we have to meditate on DT. So like suppose we are meditating on Radha Vrindavan Chandra. So but here in the beginning we saw the 400 forms of Lord Vishnu. So in the case of Bhakti Yogi, does the Lord manifest in the heart as the deity in which we are meditating, or as the 400 form, or like what form does the Lord will manifest?
Yeah, if you see the explanation of that verse, you can read Vishwanath's commentary on that. Shri Jiva Goswami also, both of them comment in the same way. That refers to yad yad dhiya, by the form that they meditate on. That refers to basically what? That as a sadhana bhakta, the particular form of the Lord that they meditate on, whether they meditate on, Shama Sundar Krishna, or they meditate on Varaha, or they meditate on Nrasimha, like that form Krishna manifests when they become Siddha, meaning when they develop the love of Godhead. That's the meaning of that verse. Okay. So there, the form, the understanding there over is about the form of the Lord per se. It's not about, okay, this deity or that deity or this particular deity or like that. No, it's Shama Sundar. Any deity you have in the whole world, whatever. So we meditate on that, we serve the Lord. But our idea is that this is our Shama Sundar, like that. So from that angle, the verse is speaking, that idea is spoken. It is not to say that somebody is worshipping a particular deity, so then Lord manifests that particular form to the devotee. So as far as the verse is concerned, that is what it is talking about. So when we worship a certain deity like Vrindavan Chandra, and we become attached to that particular Ishtadeva, that form, so we do that is with the clear-cut understanding that this is our Shama Sundar. And when we see another deity which is there at other place, we will not consider that this form is different and that form is different. And that idea is not there. Although one may have the particular feeling of service, a great attachment to a particular form which one is worshipping, but the verse is not saying that so only that particular form will be manifested to him and not some other form, some other deity form of the same Lord. Who is that? Shama Sundar. So the verse, the explanation there in terms of Tattva is like this, that you accept the form which is Shama Sundar Krishna or Dwarakadhish Krishna, or you accept a form which is Varaha or Nrasimha, and be clear with that, because what you are worshipping is what you are going to see. So if you are worshipping Nrasimha Dev and you are constantly developing the feelings of devotion for that form will only be manifested. Not that by worshipping Nrasimha you will get Lord Krishna, or by worshipping Lord Krishna in Vrindavan you will get Dwarkadish, or by worshipping Dwarkadish you will get Vrindavan. So that's why the object of meditation, object of service, what is your dhyaya, becomes very important in the path of bhakti. If one doesn't worship Vrindavan Krishna, he will not be able to go to Vrindavan Krishna. If one worships Krishna with the Aishwarya Bhav, he will land up in Dwarka. He will not land up in Vrindavan. Only Raganuga Bhakti can give Krishna, actually, who is in the Vrindavan, like that. So the verse is talking from that particular angle, Prabhu. There, that's the sense in which it is speaking. Good.
One more question.
Yeah.
In the purport, Prabhupada told that until one is absolutely free from sex desire, one should not accept some sort of life.
Yeah.
So what is the exact meaning of desire? Because there's one verse by Yamunacharya where it says, Yadavadi, he's also the thoughts of sex desire is coming, but he's spitting at the thought. So desire, does the desire mean that a thought only will not come, or thought may come, even neglect it? I don't have desire. So what is the meaning of desire?
Yeah. Yeah, that particular verse, which is Yamuna Yadavadi Mama Chetha Krishna Padaravinde. So that particular verse is not found in Sri tradition. So, Prabhupada has quoted this many, many times. So we can understand that verse only in terms of our Acharya's explanation. Okay, this is what I want to tell first thing. Because that verse, our Gaudiya tradition only has quoted that particular verse. Yadavadhi mama cheta Krishna padaravind. So in that particular verse, if you see, the aspect is that somebody like Yamunacharya also, he is saying that Tadavadhi Batanari Sangame Smaryamane. So now our understanding is that, so Yamunacharya is a pure devotee, and then he is praying like that. Okay. So we can explain it based on our Siddhanta that Anartha Nivrutti, if you see, at the level of Nishtha, only three kinds of anarthas go away, which is Sukrutotha, Dushkrutotha, and Bhaktyutha. But the fourth anarthas, aparadotha, they don't go away. So that is why, because of that anarthas, so there might be kama and krodha and everything in a devotee's heart, even post anartha nivrutti. But how is that kama krodha? That is cheta yetai anaviddham. What is the verse? How does it begin? Tada rajastamo bhava kama lobha dayaschaye cheta aitair anaviddham sthitam satve prasidati. So that particular verse, if you see, tada rajastamo bhava, it's talking about a state which is post anartha nivrutti. Because just before that, bhaktir bhavati naishtiki has come. So that verse says, tada rajastamo bhava kama lobha dayaschaye. So at that time, the feelings of kama and lobha, which are born out of rajas and tamascha, they are there. But cheta etair anaviddham. But his consciousness is not disturbed by this. So these feelings are there, these thoughts go and come. Vishwanath Chakravarti says in Madhurya Kadambini that his bhajan is not disturbed now by this. Before Anartha Nivrutti, when these thoughts come, his bhajan is disturbed. Oh, bolta chhod do. Let me go for fulfillment of these desires. But post Anartha Nivrutti, he says that these thoughts come and they come and go. They touch him and go away. They will not affect his bhajan at all. So that is the meaning of that anaviddham. Cheta etair anaviddham. Kam or krodh hote hue bhi, his consciousness will not get deterred by that. So now if we have to explain a verse like Yadavadhi mama cheta, we will explain in this fashion, that here is Yamunacharya, who has gone beyond that stage of anartha nivrutti, like that. He doesn't have any anarthas, meaning especially the sukrutot or dushkrutot kind of anarthas, like that. So even if somebody in that case is on the level of ruchi, he may get a thought of kama, but cheta etair anaviddham, his bhajan will not be disturbed at all. Asakti level, that thought can come still. When will that thought stop? That is prema. Only at the prema level where we say that vidyate hridaya granthi chidyante sarva samshaya, sab avidya khatam ho gayi abhi, kuch bacha nahi hai usme. That is bhava. Basically, bhava is just a ray of prema. So at that level, person will not at all get any thoughts. Complete, finished actually. Moksha lagutakrit sudurlabha. Srila Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Sami Sindhu that the pleasure of senses becomes non-existent at the level of prema. It stops its existence only. There is nothing like that. If you say pleasure of the senses at the level of prema, but that is not sadhaka's level. He says, even post anartha nivrutti, sadhaka sees the sense enjoyment, but his attraction for bhakti is much greater than attraction for sense enjoyment. That's why he proceeds. At the level of bhava, he says it becomes insignificant. And at the level of prema, it becomes non-existent. उसको बोलोगे आप काम, pleasure in काम, is there anything like that? He will say. ऐसा कुछ होता है क्या? At our stage, we can't say like that, right? ऐसा कुछ होता है क्या? But still our attraction for bhakti is more. That's why we are continuing bhakti and going progressing further in bhakti. When this attraction for sense enjoyment would be more, then person will give up the path and then go run behind the sense enjoyment that way. So that is the point. So that is how we can see, we can explain in that manner. As far as our philosophy is concerned, kama lobha dayascha ye, but cheta etair anaviddham. Anaviddha. उससे influence नहीं होने वाला अभी. He is just going to progress now further and further and further. If at all some fall happens from that level, it happens because of that aparad, if he does aparad. Now his fall is not going to happen because he is having, all this kama, krodha and all that. But if he does aparadh, because of that aparadh, he may be seen as falling to kam, krodha and all that. So, but the reason there is actually, real reason is aparadh. At least if somebody has gone beyond anartha nivrutti and has achieved nishtha. So post nishtha, if you see somebody falling from bhakti in a terrible way, then you understand that it's a result of aparadh. That's how the manifestation of that aparadh may come in terms of kama, may come in terms of krodha, may come in terms of any other anartha. But the reason is no longer his own anartha, sukruto, dushkruto, nahi. उसने पिछले जन्म में जो पाप किया है, नहीं, that's not the reason now. That is all gone. That is gone at nishtha level only. So this is now only happening because of aparadhas, like that. That is how we can understand. Okay.
So Prabhupada is saying absolutely free from sex there.
Yeah.
That means at least nishtha level.
Yes.
Anaviddham.
So that is correct, actually, because that is why Prabhupada says for a sannyasi, the minimum standard is he should be on nishtha level. This is why Prabhupada says. And there are many quotes, many paragraphs. I had done some compilation for Sannyas Ministry College. So that time, so Prabhupada says for a sannyasi, at least they should be on the platform of nishtha. Because then the anartha nivritti's three aspects are over and only the aparadha aspect is there. So even if these thoughts come, he is not so much, his bhajan is not so much disturbed. And that is real platform of Madhyamadhikari. Madhyamadhikari means he should be at least on nishtha. That is a real adhikar. So in our life, we see Madhyamadhikari more like a Kanishta Madhyama. We are not Uttama Madhyama. There is Kanishta Madhyama, Madhyama Madhyama, Uttama Madhyama. So actually Madhyamadhikari means Nishtha. That should be the standard. So at that level, as you are saying, even if the thoughts come, he will not be influenced by it. That's the point. Clear? Very well. Yes, Prabhuji.
This is in connection with Samartha Krishna Prabhu's earlier question, that in ISKCON itself we have so many varieties of deities like Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman. Here we have Balaji. So would it not, why, what was the purpose of Prabhupada installing this? Because what you said, that meditation then.
Yeah. Yeah, so Prabhupada has established the process of deity worship, especially Gaur Nitai, if you see, Gaur Nitai or Jagannath Baladev and Sri Krishna, Radha Krishna worship, that is there for Gaudiya Vaishnavas within Raganuga Bhakti only. It is Raganuga Bhakti's aspect only. And Gaur Nitai, we do understand Radha Krishna, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Anya. Also Jagannath, Baldev and Subhadra are worshipped in Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, not like Vishnu, right? Vishnu and Vishnu's sister, like how they are worshipped in other places, or even sometimes some pandas in Jagannath Puri have that kind of understanding. Oh, they have many different kind of understanding about Jagannath, what to speak of. So this is there. So now the purpose over here is to, to engage them in the Archana Vidhi. And by that Archana Vidhi, purify the heart, purify the mind and the senses, and progress further to the path of Raganuga Bhakti. So I am not saying that at the process of, at the level of Raganuga Bhakti, then one, what does one do with the deities? Then one gives up these deities or ISKCON. No, that's not the point. But the point is this, that it is more like a general arrangement to engage devotees in the process of Archanam, by which their heart gets purified, and by which then the qualification for Bhagavad Vidhi, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam can come with a great qualification like that. So now, if one is worshipping these deities with the understanding that these are the instructions of Guru, and we worship them with love and devotion, but we know that within our heart, what we are aspiring is to achieve the lotus feet of Shri Radha Krishna in Vrindavan. So if that understanding is very, very clear, so then even if one is worshipping these deities as per Guru Maharaj's instructions with love and devotion, because the sankalpa will matter very much. You know, what is his sankalpa? If he thinks that he will go to Vaikuntha to Lord Nrsimha by worshipping Nrsimha, if that is what is his sankalpa, that's why Vishwanath Chakravarti says two things are there. There is sankalpa and there is sadhana. So he says, what you will achieve in bhakti will depend on your sankalpa and your sadhana. So you should also have right sadhana and you should also have right sankalpa. So sadhana means the means, sadhana means the means, and sankalpa is what is that your understanding, what is your consciousness. So the right process of achieving Vraja Krishna or achieving Shri Shri Radha Krishna in Vrindavan is the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. That's the right means. And in that one should also have the right sankalpa. One understands that what is the goal of life and how to attain their lotus feet, and one is desiring that particular thing. So with this understanding, he may take any aspect of service in the in Guru's mission that may be there, but he's very focused that the goal of his life is to attain the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. So if that is not there, if something like, if it is missing in somebody's life, then he won't be able to achieve that goal. That is how, meaning that he speaks very clearly. That's why there is, if you see in Raganuga Bhakti, there is no worship of Mahishis also. Mahishi Pujan is not described there. One should not worship the queens of Lord Krishna. What do you mean by that? We have utmost respect for Rukmini and Satyabhama and all. But the point is, as the process of bhakti, as our sadhana, so we worship the Lord in his Vrindavan feature. This is it. All glories to all other features of the Lord. All glories to Lord Nrsimha, Varaha, everybody. But as far as we are concerned, our goal is to attain the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. So from that angle, the worship of even Mahishis and all that is not recommended for a Raganuga Bhakta. Now, if some devotee who is under a Premi Bhakta has been given that service to perform by his spiritual master, while his sankalp is very clear that he wants to go back to Shri Shri Radha Krishna. So in my understanding, then there is no issue, absolutely. That's the point. Okay, so thank you for these questions. So now we move on. This is text 15. So now begins this yogi when he wants to give up the body and attain Brahma. So what should he be doing? What is the process of giving up? So that is spoken from text 15. This is Sadhyo Mukti. This is the immediate liberation, like that. He has done Paramatma Dharana, he has accomplished Dhyana, he has accomplished Samadhi. Now he wishes to give up his body. So what should such a yogi do? And how does he give up the body and attain? So then that is spoken over here from text 15 onwards to verse 21. That will speak Sadhyo Mukti. Sthiram sukham cha sanamastito yati yada jihasurimamangalokamam kale cha deshe cha mano na sajjayet prananyached vanasa jitasu.
O king, whenever the yogi desires to leave this planet of human beings, he should not be perplexed about the proper time or place, but should comfortably sit without being disturbed, and regulating the life here, should control the senses by the mind.
So this is when yogi wants to give up the body. Yogi wants to give up his body. ऐसे नहीं वो बुढ़ा हो गया मरने को आया इसलिए. When he wants to give up body on his own, he is desiring that. See, atha tasyeva bhakti mishra yoginah swayam deha tyaga krityamah. Now that bhakti mishra yogi's method of leaving the body has been described. That is what swayam, on his own, he wants to give up the body. Yogis, do they want to just die in the natural course, or they want to give up the body in the way they want? Right? So that is yogi. He gives up the body when he wants to give up the body. In the sense, by his yoga process, he decides that, yes, now I want to give up the body. Then he follows Shat Chakra Yoga, and then he gives up the body. By having the life air pass through the Brahmarandra. this way. So that is what is being described over here. That Bhakti Mishra yogi who perfected his dharana, dhyan, samadhi on Paramatma, and he has become pure now. He wants to go back to Brahman. He wants to achieve Brahman. So this person is being described over here. So sthiram sukham chasanam astito yati. So he is perfectly accomplished in asanam, and when he wants to now, he has done that processes like yama niyam asan pranayam and everything he has accomplished. So now yada jihasu, when he wants to give up this locum, this planet, or he wants to give up his body, so then he should not worry about kalecha deshecha manona sajjayet. He should not worry about the time. He should not worry about the place in which he is, because he has perfected. The path of yoga doesn't so much depend on kala and desha. Krishna also says in Gita, right? Naite sriti partha janan yogi muhyati kaschana. Krishna also says, he describes those two marks, Devayana, Pitrayan, and then he says, but knowing these two paths, yogi muhyati kaschana, yogi is not bewildered like that. Tasmad sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna, like that. Why? Because for yogi, these things don't matter. And these Uttarayan and Dakshinayan and, Shukla, Ratri, Krishna Paksha, Shukla Paksha, all this is a subject matter which these criteria, these considerations are there, not for the path of a yogi. They are for Pitrayan, for those who want to achieve the higher planets like Pitruloka or whatever, Swargiya planets and all that. For them it is spoken. For yogi it is not spoken. So that's why here also it is said, Kalecha deshecha mano na sajjayet. Prananyached manasa jitasu. So now he is ready to give up his body. So he sits in the asan, he controls his life airs, manasa jitasu, and he wants to now become completely detached from everything and give up his body like that. So it is said, prana niyached manasa jitasu. He controls his senses through the mind. By the mind, he controls the senses, and now he sits to give up his body. So this whole process that is being described here, it is actually something called as manasa. What is that? Manasarpanam. Okay, whatever. It is mental offering, basically. What he does is, he stops identifying with everything. So he offers his senses to the mind, saying that I don't need the senses. Then he offers his mind to the buddhi, saying that I don't need the mind. So just as in creation, how things have come and who is superior, so he reverses that process. So when he says, I don't need the senses and offers senses to the mind, मतलब क्या senses निकाल के mind को दे रहा है वो? नहीं. How is he offering? He's offering mentally. Meaning he's saying now there that I don't need the senses. He stops identifying with the senses. It's like he doesn't have the senses now. Shabda Roop Sparsha Rasa Gandha jo hai na, that he will not think about anything of that. That is basically offering your senses to the mind. So then mind also has its sense object, which is thought. So then he wants to offer that to buddhi. Meaning now mind will not think about anything which is its own rumination of sense objects and all that. It will be completely under buddhi. So in this case now, buddhi will be telling him to focus on Paramatma in this particular case. So this is what is happening now over here. You understand that when it is said, prana niyachet manasa jitasu, one should control his prana senses by the mind, meaning now he starts this reversing process. Vishwanath Chakravarti explains this like that. Even Sridhar Swami explains in that manner only, that he starts offering back all these senses and mind and everything to the superior sense, like that. So this is how. So he meditates within his heart. See, even somebody like Yudhishthir Maharaj did this. You remember, right? It's there in first canto, where it is said that he offered his mind to the buddhi, and then offered buddhi back to the soul, and then offered the soul to the Shuddha Jiva, then offered the Shuddha Jiva to the Brahman. Like that it goes. further. So similarly here also, it is said it is mental offering. So it is basically stopping to identify. That's all it is here. So Prabhupada says, in Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that a person who is totally engaged in transcendental loving service of Lord and who constantly remembers him at every step easily obtains the mercy of the Lord by entering into his personal contact. Such devotees do not need to seek an opportune moment to leave the present body. So Prabhupada is speaking for devotees also, because yes, path of yoga, naturally it means for devotees also. So a devotee is also not so much worried about the opportune moment. If it is there, he may utilize it. But even if it is not there, it doesn't matter for a devotee. Even if somebody dies sometimes in a ghastly accident or something, or some kind of mishap. So it's up to Krishna completely, isn't it? We don't worry about, oh, it was not Uttarayan, it was not Dakshinayan, it was night time, it was daytime, like that. It's completely transcendental. These factors don't have control over a devotee, the follower of Uttama Bhakti, the path of Uttama Bhakti process. So Prabhupada is saying this aspect even for devotees. Like that. Prabhupada says, those who are mixed devotees, alloyed with fruitive action or empirical philosophical speculation, they require an opportune moment for quitting his body. So these are the ones which are like karma mishras, meaning bhakti mishra karma, those who follow the path of karma kand and such people, pitra yajna or deva yajna meaning especially those who want to go to heavenly planets, such people. So what Krishna shows in Bhagavad Gita by Pitriyan, that path, they need this. But for a yogi, this is not so much a concern. Text 16. Manah swabuddhya malaya niyamya kshetradnya etam ninayet tamatmani atmanam atmanya varodhya dhiro labdho pashantir virameta krityat.
Thereafter, the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of the satisfaction, so that he ceases from all other activities.
So you see here Prabhupada is speaking in merging, in terms of merging. You understand now? So the yogi should merge his mind. So senses have been merged in mind. Now we are with mind, right? So yogi should merge his mind in what? Manah swa buddhya amalaya niyamya. Yogi should merge his mind in swabuddhi, in the intelligence. Meaning he should take the mind and say to the intelligence that take this mind. I don't want it like that. I want to completely identify myself with buddhi. Buddhi, which is focused on the Supreme Lord, Paramatma. So stopping any identification with mind. So that is a mental offering. Manah swabuddhya malaya niyamya. So he merges his mind in buddhi. It's a mental merging, mental offering. And then he merges that buddhi in kshetradnya. Kshetradnya etam. Okay, so in kshetradnya, in the soul, he merges this buddhi, meaning he takes the buddhi and offers it to the kshetradnya, to the soul. So kshetradnya is that soul which is having body and which is basically not body, but here, which is witness of the buddhi, which possesses the buddhi. But further than that is the pure soul, which is Atmani. So that's why he takes, it is said, he takes a soul which is identifying or which is witnessing buddhi and merges into pure soul, the soul which has nothing to do with material world. So he identifies himself, he stops himself identifying even as a soul which has buddhi. No, pure soul, which is even devoid of buddhi, that is Atmani, Tam Atmani. And then he takes that Atma, and that Atma he merges into Atmanam Atmani Avarudhya. So this last Atmani refers to Brahma. It refers to Brahman. He takes his own soul, which is, he himself, which is the pure soul, and he identifies that with Brahman. He wants to extinguish all his identity and wants to think that he is actually one with that Brahma. Atmanam Atmani avarudhya dhiro. So his complete identification is going to stop now. He doesn't identify with anything like mind or senses or like that. So this stage is called as Labdhopashanti, which is Jivan Mukta stage, where he has stopped identifying with anything of this world. So because it is Labdhopashanti, because it is Jivan Mukta, so he stops from any activities actually, complete Virameta Krityat, because one who is Jivan Mukta doesn't have to do any activity, right? So that's why it is said here that he stops from all the activities in this way. See, Vishwanath Chakravarti says here that Mano buddho pravilapayet, मन को बुद्धि में प्रविलित कर दीजिए. One should make his mind merge in his buddhi. Then this buddhi into kshetradnya. So what is this kshetradnya? This is buddhyadi drashta, meaning one who is witnesser of buddhi, that kshetradnya. So that kind of kshetradnya is then merged into shuddha jive, which is atmani. And that shuddha jiva is merged back into final atman, which means brahmani. So he starts identifying himself as one with Brahman that way. So then this Labdhopashanti stage is achieved, which is the stage of Jivan Mukta, like that. So this is all happening mentally, you understand. So how much he should be accomplished, yogi like that. Not like he stops identifying with his senses and then some pakoda smell comes, like, it's not like that. You understand? Identification means at that level finished then. He's not going to identify with anything further. So it's all a mental thing. But such powerful meditation thing is there that by that those particular sense objects, he is becoming completely indifferent. Pakode ke smell se gaya to finished. Then he has to again practice his process, and he has to come to the level, get rid of all those. Merging hua hi nahi, right? No merging happened. So it's like that. So here in this case, he is like that, where he has merged back all the elements into the next element meaning mana or buddhi or like that, this way. So this is called as Labdhopashanti or Jivan Mukta state, like that. So Prabhupada, he says, the functions of mind are thinking, feeling, and willing. So Prabhupada says when mind is materialistic, it will get into nuclear weapons and this all such destructive things. But when the mind acts under the spiritual urge, it acts wonderfully for going back home, back to God. So he's saying manah swabuddhya niyamya. That is what he's talking about. We should bring that mind under swabuddhi. We should make that mind follow the scriptures injunctions. That is what he is referring. So therefore the mind has to be manipulated by good and unalloyed intelligence. Perfect intelligence is to render service unto the Lord. That's the perfect intelligence, that way. So then Prabhupada talks about further things, that how otherwise, these aspects of buddhi being merged into the kshetradnya being merged into shuddha jiva being merged into the atman or brahman. So all these ideas he also explains over here. Okay, text 17. Now this Jivan Mukta state is described in 2 verses. Nayatra kalo nimisham para prabhu kuto no deva jagatam ya ishire nayatra sattvam na rajastamascha na vai vikaro na mahan pradhanam.
In that transcendental state of Labdhopashanti, there is no supremacy of devastating time, which controls even the celestial demigods, who are empowered to rule over mundane creatures. And what to speak of any supremacy of the demigods themselves. Nor is there the modes of material goodness, passion, or ignorance, nor even the false ego, material causal ocean, or material nature.
Yeah. So in that particular stage of Jivan Mukti, now the yogi is in, it is said that na yatra kalo animisham parah prabhu. Now there will be no influence of kala. He is now becoming completely free from influence of kala because he is Jivan Mukta. So in that particular state, it is said the kala cannot influence him. What to speak of devatas? Stopping all identification only. So what sense devatas and how they will influence and all that. So the influence of Kala, the time or the heavenly demigods and all that is in that case is not there. Na yatra sattvam na rajas tamascha. And there is no sattva, raja, tama in that because he has gone beyond that, isn't it? He has gone beyond all ahankar. Navai vikaro. He has gone beyond all the ahankar. He stopped identifying himself with all these things. So that's why in this stage, although he has material gross body, what is the point? Now he is Jivan Mukta, so he has stopped all the identification. So that's why these things are to be said to be absent in him. Navai vikaro, there is no ahankar, na mahan, na mahatatva, pradhanam, no pradhan. He is not identifying himself with anything. See, all these elements, just as they are there at the creational level, they are there in the body also. Satvarajatama, Mahatatva, Pradhan, that which is there in Brahmanda is also there in the Pinda. So he is not himself, not at all identifying with any of these things. So that is what is spoken over here. As a Jivan Mukta, he stops identifying with all these things in his own body, in his own existence. So this way. So that is why now he is just ready to give up the body. Once somebody becomes Jivan Mukta, he has to just quit the body. As soon as he quits the body, he will achieve the highest, whatever, liberation, depends. It is Brahman or it is going back to the spiritual world. So Jivan Mukta means finished now. He doesn't have anything that will bind. He will not have any influence of Kala, Karma or anything like that. That way. Only from Jivan Mukta stage, somebody can fall if he develops a offensive mentality towards the Supreme Lord. He starts thinking that, oh, Paramatma that I was meditating is actually Maya or something like that. Then from there also, Dhram, they will fall. So that is only the meaning of Aruhya Krishnayana Parampada Patanti Adha. Like that. That's the meaning. So this is what. So Prabhupada says, Prabhupada explains these words like Gunatita, somebody is beyond the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, and how process of bhakti helps one to go beyond that. So these are the generic themes that Prabhupada speaks. I'll not get into much details of this. Prabhupada says here one thing, such transcendentalists are of two types, namely the impersonalists and the devotees. For the impersonalist, the ultimate goal or destination is Brahmajyoti. But for the devotees, the ultimate goal is Vaikuntha planet. Why? Because sometimes some devotees also use this process to give up body. Those who are accomplished yogis, devotees, they can also use this particular process to give up the body. So that's why this can also apply to a devotee, this particular series of verses. If they become accomplished yogis like that, there were many, right? Who can leave that body. Even in South Indian tradition, there are many devotees who are like that, who live with Shat Chakra Yoga practicing, and Brahmarandra, the soul comes out and they go back to the Vaikuntha, spiritual world, this way. So Prabhupada is saying that. So that aspect he is addressing also. Text 18. Param padam Vaishnavamananti tat yanneti netitya dutsisrikshava Visrajadauratme mananya sauruda Rudopagurya hapadam pade pade.
The transcendentalists desire to avoid everything godless, for they know that supreme situation in which everything is related with the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Therefore, a pure devotee who is in absolute harmony with the Lord does not create perplexities, but worships the lotus feet of the Lord at every moment, taking them into his heart.
Yes. So I would just complete 18, 19, 20, and 21. 4 verses, maybe not much, 5 minutes it will take. That's it. I will complete this so that this section is completed. And then tomorrow, the last section may take another 45 minutes or so. Okay. So Param Padam Vaishnava Mamananti. So all these people who are these yogis, what they do is they now have realized or understood that Param Padam, which is considered Vaishnavam, pertaining to personality of Godhead. So what is this Param Padam Vaishnavam? And this can refer to Brahma Jyoti also, or this can refer in case of a devotee trying to give up his body, and by this mean, it can mean Vaikuntha planet also. Param Padam can also refer here to Brahma Jyoti. Vishwanath Chakravarti is explained like that very clearly, because it is the effulgence of the Supreme Lord. So these devotees who have, these yogis who have considered that Brahma Jyoti as the highest, so they, it is said, yan neti neti iti atat utsri sakshavaha. So they want to give up everything else which is not tat. Atat, it is said, atat ut sri srikshavaha. Sri srikshavaha means those who want to give up. What is that they want to give up? Atat, meaning that which is not tat. So tat is Brahman, and anything else from Brahman they want to give it up. So they have accepted that Brahma Jyoti only as the highest thing. But in order to achieve that, very interestingly, what they have to do is Visrujya Dauratmyam. They have to give up the nature of being a Duratma, Dauratmya, and they have to Rudhopa Guhya Arha Padam Pade Pade. They have to embrace to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. If they have to achieve that Brahma Jyoti, every moment within their heart, they should embrace whom? Not Brahman. Whom should they embrace? The lotus feet of the Lord, that Paramatma. At this particular stage, when they want Sayujya Mukti, then they have to, see, they have been meditating on Paramatma always, right? So now they are Jivan Mukta, they are about to give up the body, but at this particular stage also it is said that they don't give up Paramatma, they have to meditate on that Paramatma and embrace his lotus feet within their heart. Arha Padam Padam. This Arha Padam Padam is referring to Vishnu's lotus feet. Arhasya Padam, Lord Vishnu's lotus feet. So they have to be his very focused. They have to do the meditation on him and be fully absorbed in his form. Then only these people can achieve the lotus feet, the Brahman aspect. Dauratmyam. See, Dauratmya word is also very interesting here. It says that they should not be Duratma, meaning they should not have polluted intelligence. Atma here is translated as intelligence, which means that they should not consider that this Paramatma is an illusion, or Paramatma is Maya, or Paramatma is me only. I am only Paramatma. If they develop such a kind of idea, then they will not be able to achieve Brahman. They can't achieve. So this is Dauratmyam. On their path, so it's not that you meditate Paramatma and then you realize that you are only the Paramatma. Usko milega kya Brahma Sayujya? He cannot get actually. Such a person cannot get Brahma Sayujya. So they understand this thing till the end point that Paramatma is only, Paramatma is the Supreme Lord, he is Satchidananda. But seeing that particular form, their desire is to actually achieve Brahman. So that is only the unfortunate or interesting phenomenon, that they are worshipping the Lord's lotus feet. They know the form, they can do samadhi on that form, but on that form, worshipping that form, where they want to go is Brahma, Sayujya, like that. So that is the point of this particular verse. Okay. Text 19. Itham munistu paramed vyavasthito vijnana drigvirya surandhita shaya swaparshina pidya gudam tato nilam sthaneshu shatsunnamayo jitaklama. Yes.
By the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated with the heel of one's foot and by lifting the life air from one place to another in the 6 primary places.
Yeah, so now they have to just make sure that the life air comes out through Brahmarandra. So this is the process now. Last 3 verses is Shat Chakra Yoga. This the process to give up the body. That's it. They have already become Jivan Mukta. But this process is, see, when you say they have become Jivan Mukta, it means that they have given up all identification with sense enjoyment, but they consider the body to be the means to achieve that. So somebody may say, "Na, अरे भाई body का identification छोड़ दिया, फिर ये life air कैसे raise कर रहा है?" So you understand that particular see, this is what is the meaning of that. Even the word, if you read from Tikas, then one word you understand very nicely. This is what is the meaning of atat utsrishtikshavaha, that they want to give up everything which is not Brahman. So now here the body and using this body to achieve Brahma, that they will not consider as atat. This they will accept as the means and this to achieve that particular. So that's why they are doing all these activities, but there is absolutely no other identification in terms of any sense enjoyment or like that, and this way. So then they block the bottom two holes of their body, Swaparshina, Pidya, like that, and they perform the Shat Chakra Yoga. They are fully realized as free from their body. They identify only with the Brahman, and then in that position, they close the two holes of the body and start raising their life air. By the process of yoga, they start raising the life air. So Prabhupada describes this process in the last para, that how they are able to raise the life air. So basically the equilibrium point of the life air, they start raising. So right from the bottommost Muladhara Chakra to Swadhisthana and to further Anahat, Manipurak, and then Anahat, and then Vishuddha Chakra, and finally Ajna Chakra. Unlike that, they are raising all the equilibrium point. So when you raise the equilibrium point of the air, naturally the soul is rising also, isn't it? Because soul is floating on the equilibrium point of all the airs. Okay. Nabhyam sthitam radya dhiropya tasma dudan agatyo rasitam nayen muni tatonu sandhaya dhiya manasvi swatalu moolam shanakaya nayeta.
The meditative devotee should slowly push up the life air from the navel to the heart, from there to the chest, and from there to the root of the palate. He should search out the proper places with intelligence.
Yeah. So then he raises that life air from Nabhi to Hridaya, like that. And then further he takes up to Talu, which are the different chakras. The chakras are the energy levels in the body where those particular equilibrium points, they are designated that at this particular chakra, at this particular. So depending on which chakra your life air is, and which whole of the body it comes out, based on that you will achieve a particular realm, like that. So if somebody is going and taking his life air to the top point and soul is coming out through Brahmarandra, he can achieve the highest abode also. He can achieve the Supreme Lord's abode in that case. So especially here, Supreme Lord's abode meaning Brahman. He can achieve Brahman like that. So that is what is spoken. Last verse. Tasmad bhruvorantaramunnayeta niruddha saptayatano napeksha sthitva muhurtardham akuntha drishti nirbidhya murdhan visrujet parangatah.
Thereafter, the bhakti yogi should push the life air up between the eyebrows, and then blocking the 7 outlets of the life air, he should maintain his aim for going back home, back to Godhead. If he is completely free from all desires for material enjoyment, he should then reach the cerebral hole and give up his material connections, having gone to the Supreme.
So Prabhupada is sending him back home, back to Godhead, because this is a devotee, devotee practicing. So you understand, this is what it is. Prabhupada me writing back home, back to Godhead means this is a devotee practicing Shat Chakra. So agreed, yes, fine. So Prabhupada is justified like that. Otherwise, this is Bhakti Yogi, but this is Bhakti Mishra Yogi. So as far as the scheme of the verses is there, you go add that Mishra in that. Bhakti Mishra Yogi should push the life air like that. Okay, so that's how he should take it, the life air further. From Talu, he takes it to the further to the Ajna Chakra, meaning in between eyebrows, he brings it for some time. And then there he holds it for muhurtardha, 24 minutes, like that. And then thinking that he wants to achieve Brahman, then he just causes that particular life air to come out through the top point, cerebral hole, just over the top of the head. This point is there, which is considered the point of coming out, Brahmarandhra. So he pierces it open, and then the soul achieves Nirbhidhyam urdhan visrajet parangatah, and the soul achieves Brahma. It goes and merges into Brahman, Brahma Jyoti, like that. So that is the process. If he is a bhakta, then such a bhakta will achieve Vaikuntha. That's what the point is. So that's why Prabhupada explains the whole context of verse as devotees. This way. Second para also, he says Vaikuntha Loka, that such a devotee can achieve Vaikuntha Loka. Yes. Okay, so tomorrow we'll continue for Krama Mukti. Hare Krishna. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.